This is the story my father told me when I was very young, probably before I was 10 years old, but the story stuck in my head ever since then. It is a story of why you should not judge anyone and why all judgment belongs to God. The story goes like this. There was a prophet of God who was very holy, pious and wise. The prophet then told God one day that considering his antecedents, he would like to be the judge of the world. The Lord then asked him if he was sure he would be able to judge the world, of which the prophet said yes, he would like to be the judge of the world. So God then told him, okay, since you would like to be the judge of the world, he's going to show him a scene of an event, and at the end of the day, the prophet should tell him who was wrong. The prophet agreed. So in the morning, God asked the prophet to climb a tree, a certain tree, and observe everything that unfolds from morning till the evening, and at the end of the day, the prophet should judge who was wrong. The prophet agreed, and so the prophet climbed the tree and hid himself in the branches as God had commanded him, so that he would observe everything. Not too long after, the prophet saw a merchant approaching. The merchant looked very rich and had some bags with him, with his merchandise. The merchant was probably going to the market. However, the merchant seemed tired and wanted to rest. He saw the tree the prophet was sitting on top. But he didn't notice the prophet, but he noticed the tree the prophet was on top. And he thought he could rest at the foot of this tree. So he laid his head down to rest. Not long afterwards, came a madman walking along the same path. The madman was walking around carrying a cutlass. The madman looked and noticed the merchant sleeping under the tree. And without any hesitation, he killed the merchant and cut off his head. And just like that, and then the madman walked away. The prophet at the top of the tree was aghast. He was like wondering, oh boy, what just happened here? But then he had to remain silent as he was on top of the tree, still observing. After waiting for some time, a group of monkeys came down to the scene. They saw the headless body. They were hungry and they were looking for food. They rummaged through the merchant's belongings and could not find anything, but saw a bag which contained money. Thinking that there was bananas in it, they took the bag to a nearby stream and emptied the contents at the bank of the river, looking for food. But when they concluded that there was no food in it, they left the bag and the remaining money in it at the river bank and went away. All the while, the prophet was still at the top of this tree, observing everything. In the evening, a young man came to the river to fetch some water for he and his household. And he noticed the bag of money which the monkeys had left by the river bank. Looking around, he did not see anyone. He called and called, thinking that the owner was around, so that the owner could come and take his money. But no one did. He didn't see any person. So while waiting, he sat there and counted the money. And while counting, he thought to himself, wow, that this must be more than luck. That must be God's favor, because the amount of money in the bag was the exact amount of money he had been defrauded, and of which he and his sister, who were staying together, had some financial difficulties, which they were facing because of the money they were defrauded. Thanking God for his good fortune, he ran home to tell his sister the good news. So, at the end of the day, God asked the prophet to come down from the tree and to judge who was wrong. The prophet started by saying, well, it was the merchant. It was the merchant. I'm sure he's the one that was wrong. Because he should not have slept in the first place. If he didn't sleep, all these things would not have happened. But God reminded him, told him that the merchant was tired only and needed to rest. So it wasn't the merchant's fault. The prophet then went on to say, it was the madman who cut off the merchant's head. Because if the madman had not cut off the merchant's head, all this wouldn't have happened. But God then said, well, he was a madman. He didn't know what he was doing. And even in a court of law, the madman would not be held liable for his actions. The prophet then thought and said, well, the monkeys did have a part to play and should have left the man's things intact. And probably the man who saw the money wouldn't have taken advantage to take a dead man's money left at the river bank. But God reminded him, well, they were just monkeys and they were hungry and looking for food. And the young man who saw the money was simply lucky. After all, the young man did call out at the top of his voice for whoever owned the bag and nobody came up. So, it was the young man's luck. The prophet, after thinking and thinking for a while and cracking his brain to solve the mystery on who might be wrong, finally gave up and asked God, the Almighty, to tell him who was wrong. God now told him exactly what happened. God now told him that what happened was that for the scales to be balanced, the merchant had in a past life beheaded the madman and there had to be a compensation. But that the madman was mad for another crime he had committed, but still needed to behead the merchant's head for the law of compensation so that everything could be balanced. Secondly, the merchant had defrauded the young man and his sister of the exact amount of money which the monkeys had to empty off the contents for the young man to see. The young man found the exact amount of money he was defrauded by the merchant. And by providence, by luck, by faith, by the young man's prayer, he came across that money at the riverbank, and he was thankful to God for answering his prayer. So God then told the prophet that he would never have known all these things, since he was a mere mortal who could not see past his own life, let alone the life of others. But he, God, the omnipresent, the beginning and the end, who sees all things, only he could be the judge of the world. But the prophet, who was limited, could not be the judge of the world. The prophet was sorry for asking to be the judge of the world and concluded that one should never be the judge until he knows the full story of someone. So this is the moral of the story. Don't judge anyone. You do not know their heart. You do not know their full story. And as God often says in the holy books, vengeance is his, because he sees all and knows all.